Hi, I'm Bob Roth, managing partner and co-founder of Cypress Home Care Solutions. Since 1994, we've been helping older adults in the Phoenix community age gracefully and safely in the place they call home. Since 2014, I've been bringing you Health Futures, Taking Stock in You, a show dedicated to helping you live a longer, healthier, and happier life. Be sure to subscribe, rate, and review this podcast, and enjoy the show.
Welcome back to Health Futures, and today I have an extraordinary guest here with me, somebody that I've known for, I'm going to say, the better part of 7 years, and she has quietly become one of the most influential voices in home care, not because she owns a home care agency, but because she spent years listening to hundreds of owners, operators, innovators, and technology leaders. Through nearly 200 podcasts, interviews, and years with Home Care Pulse, which became Activated Insights, and Care Switch, she's developed a unique perspective on what separates thriving agencies from those that are simply trying to survive. Today, she's launched her own company, Home Care Strategy Lab, and I am really excited to introduce to you all Miriam Allred, who's on the other side of the podcast studio. Welcome to Health Futures.
You're so kind. Thank you so much, Bob. The pleasure is mine. Sheesh.
Well, it's great. It really is great to have you here and ask you a lot of questions because you're used to being the one asking the questions. Now you get to answer them.
Giddy up. I'm going to ask you some questions.
Oh, sure. So for people that don't know you, I'd love for them to know who you are. And how did you find home care?
Yeah, sounds great. So I'm Miriam Allred. I'll kind of give you, a little bit of a history here. Born and raised in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Most people don't know New Mexico, and so I like to put it on the map. Am 30 years old, currently live in Fort Worth, Texas. How did I come about home care? So my college experience was kind of background in marketing, digital advertising, all of that good stuff. Funny enough, I was working for different advertising agencies, so you and I have kind of that marketing background, but was actually selling radio ads right out of college and learned very quickly that was not the place for me. Had an older lady tell me that, this is not the space for me. But anyway, she connected me with her son, who was Todd Austin, who is now the president of Home Care Pulse, now Activated Insights. This was in eastern Idaho, really small, rural eastern Idaho. Not a lot of companies, let alone tech companies with a national footprint. And so anyway, knew I was not cut out for radio, but got acquainted with Todd Austin, Eric Madsen, Aaron Markham, kind of the early team of Home Care Pulse. And they already had a really kind of strong content engine because of the benchmarking report. And so came into that marketing team, kind of learned the ropes of what even is home care. I was, early 20s at the time. And they kind of got me up to speed of, what home care is, let alone what are the benchmarks and what's kind of the performance and data and tracking and training of the industry. And so pretty quickly was creating content for home care and therefore had to know what I was talking about to be able to create education and content for these home care companies. And anyway, we had a really successful blog and kind of webinar series and the benchmarking report, and nobody was really podcasting in the space. And we, as kind of a team, said we should get into the podcasting realm, and all eyes kind of turned to me of who should be the host. And so that was where I actually started my home care journey, but also my podcasting journey. And all of a sudden I'm interviewing people like Peter Ross and Neil Kurzban and Vicky Hoke, just interviewing kind of the titans of the industry. And I pretty quickly had to learn what I was doing, what I was talking about to be qualified to interview those people. So,
and me having had my own radio show and podcast, you're right. I mean, it's not easy, but at the same time, I think the thing that I love about you is the quality that you have that's similar to mine. And that is, it's not about you, it's about the other person. Mm-hmm. You lean in because you're interested. And you had 3 podcasts. The first one was with Home Care Pulse. What was that called?
Vision, the Home Care Leaders podcast.
And then you had one with Care Switch.
Home Care University.
Home Care University. Mm-hmm. And the coolest thing about it was you branded each one of these. Mm-hmm. I mean, you could have probably pulled out Home Care University and stood it up on its own, but you didn't. And then you started the Home Care Strategy Lab.
Yeah, and it's never been about me. I will always, up until today, be an imposter in home care. I've never built a home care company. I've never run a home care company, but I am curious and I'm a sponge, and I've interviewed the best, the very best in this industry. And so I've absorbed a lot of information and knowledge and data and insights. And people ask me often, why don't you do it? Why don't you run a home care company yourself? You know, why aren't you getting into it? And I just kind of laugh and say, I've got a really good thing going parallel to the industry, you know, and I don't have the itch to do it yet. Not saying I never will, but I love this space, and there's an infinite amount of problems and challenges that we are still trying to solve for every day. So I'm just still so fascinated and curious and love the people in the space.
You know, I love what you've done with the Home Care Strategy Lab, and we need mediums like podcasting and other ways to learn. And you've taken it even a step further by doing these live podcasts. You did it with the Home Care Innovation Forum recently. You did it at HCOA. And the thing I love about it is you bring some real stuff, if you would, for lack of a better word. I mean, the caregiver piece that you did for HCOA, you know, where you had all the finalists there talking about the journeys that they all led. I mean, a lot of people don't realize, you know, they see the names that you mentioned, whether it be Neil Kurzban, Vicky Hoke, or
Peter Ross.
Yeah, Peter Ross. But they're not the ones doing the work every day. It's the caregivers. And the way you interview them, the way you find out what makes them tick and makes them do what they do is so awesome. It's so great for our industry to hear from the voices that are making the difference in people's lives that we're serving every day.
Yeah, I love talking to the business leaders. You know, my whole premise and all of my success has been built on kind of business to business home care leadership and operations. But the more that I get into it, the more I realize it's the boots on the ground. It's the caregivers, it's the care managers, it's the clinical team, it's the schedulers. It's every single person that makes up the success of these businesses. And the more that I learn, the more fascinated I am by those roles and by those people. And the more I want to learn from them and the more I want to talk to them. And not jumping the gun, I don't know if I've told you this even, but I am going to executive produce a B2C home care show in the state of Connecticut, because there is still so much education for the families and for the adult children. And the more that I go down that path, I want to be a part of an education solution for the families and for the adult children. There's so many questions that they don't have answers to, and they're turning to the internet and they're turning to ChatGPT, and there's all these just kind of like ambiguous questions that the adult children are asking. And I actually want to be a part of that solution of how can we get them really good information as their parents are aging, as their loved ones are aging, and what information, what high quality information do they need going into that stage of their life. And so anyway, I'm not going to host that show, but I'm producing it alongside of 2 hosts in Connecticut. And I'm really looking forward to diving into more of like the consumer facing home care education.
Is there a chance we can repurpose that for other states? Because
Absolutely.
I think it's really important. I mean, we've done this for 32 years as a home care agency, myself for 23. And I can't begin to tell you the questions that are not being asked, that people need to be asking as it relates to care for a loved one as they age. So I think that's really remarkable that you're doing a B2C type effort.
Exactly. So we'll start it in Connecticut. It'll be kind of local to this market, but I think the education will be more universal. And so we're going to kind of start it in a micro pocket. Connecticut's a really unique market, and there's kind of unique challenges and solutions and partners in that space. But we've already kind of thought, like, if this education is rich enough and valuable enough, we'll definitely expand the audience and the reach.
30 years old, you have such knowledge and wisdom at such a young age. And, you know, the fact that you're learning from more than 200 home care agencies, but it's more than that. It's like thousands of home care agencies. And you have a better perspective than almost anyone that you've spoken with, from an agency to startup to an enterprise software or enterprise home care agency company. When you look across the industry, what separates the agencies that consistently grow? What separates them from everybody else?
Wow, I don't know if there's a singular thing. I think it's a combination of a few things. Mindset, I know that's cliche, but a growth mindset. I think a lot of owners, operators get in their own way. And so having a growth mindset, culture is a huge thing. You know, this business is really, really tough and it wears people down. I was just asking you how long your staff has been with you. There's a lot of turnover in both the office and out on the frontline workers. Culture is huge to keep people here. In order to build a successful, scalable business, your people have to stay with you. And so you have to build a culture that people want to be a part of. And so culture is huge. Operations, which is a whole multifaceted conversation of just like, you have to have really strong operations, and there's a lot to that, but that's a little bit of technology, that's good SOPs and processes, that's infrastructure, it's all of that. And so having really strong operations, and then also one that I'm kind of latched onto recently is pain tolerance. Like, this industry is not for the faint of heart. You know, there's only a handful of people that have been doing this as long as you have, and there's a reason why it's extremely difficult. And so you have to have tolerance for pain and discomfort and resiliency, and families are going to ask you tough questions. Clients are going to go through bad scenarios and bad things happen, and it gets messy and it gets really complicated. And so there's just a level of resiliency and pain tolerance. And I think I add that in because it's not just culture, it's not just operations, it's not just mindset. Home care, inherently, you need this level of resiliency that is kind of unlike anything else.
True. And we talked, you mentioned Aaron Markham. I mean, his story that he published talking about what it's like and how lonely it is very true, especially for us home care agency owners. It really is it's something that you said isn't for the faint of heart, and that's so true. What's some of the biggest mistake you see owners making?
Biggest mistakes? Well, one that you and I just talked about on the drive over, bad hires and not cutting people loose soon enough. I've attended a variety of conferences just recently, and people are holding on to bad people's kind of a harsh way of putting it, but not good fits for too long because they're afraid to let people go. You know, it's hard to let people go. Nobody wants to do that. But if they are toxic, if they're weighing your organization down, if they're late, if there's bad behavior and you're putting up with it, that sets a negative precedent. And so I think one thing that I just see and hear really often is not letting go of bad people. So that's one that I think everyone needs to take a hard look at their organization and see, are there some bad apples here that I don't want to let go of, but that I know I need to, or my team has been telling me that I need to let go of? Like, you just need to make some hard decisions and do that analysis.
So I did my podcast with you about a year ago when I was in Dallas, and you had asked me that question, and I told you that my superpower was also my kryptonite, and that's because I'm a caring, compassionate person. And I think that's pretty much the DNA of a lot of home care agency owners. I mean, let me just say this. There are other ways to make money, and a lot more money. People aren't gravitating to the home care industry to make money. They're gravitating to this business because we do good work, and we make a difference in people's lives. So I'm not so surprised to hear that, because it's hard. Because not only do we care about the clients we serve, not only do we care about the caregivers we employ, but we care about the people that are working with us, and we know that they have lives, and it's hard.
And it's tricky because owners, the flip side of what people are doing wrong per se is holding on too tight and not letting go of control of certain things, but it's because they've made bad hires and now they're jaded and now they want to hold it all tight as the owner. And so that is such like a tightrope walk to figure out, hire people, let them do the job. But then if you make a bad hire and then you want to kind of like retract those responsibilities, you take them back on as an owner, but then you're caught in this trap of becoming your own bottleneck. And I see a lot of operations where the owner is the bottleneck and they're in their own way, and it's really hard to get back out of that. But you have to, and you have to just keep pushing and keep trying to find the right fit people and grooming people with the right mindset and the right approach so that you can get out of your own way.
So you've been doing this for, we're going to say 7 years. You've seen agencies during COVID, during labor shortages, during inflation, during AI. What have the best leaders done differently to get through all of this?
I mean, I think what I see is people are two things. They're reinventing the things that no longer work. What I love to see right now are operations like yourself. I can name a slew of agencies that are reinventing themselves. They've been doing it for 20 years, 30 years, 40 years. Like, these are the pioneers in the space. You would think they've seen it all and done it all. And to some extent they have. But what it looks like, the industry, the world, society in 2026 is unlike anything we've ever seen. And so every business, every industry is reinventing itself. But home care, you would think, is pretty traditional in nature. It's people taking care of people, but the operations, the workforce, like, everything looks differently. And so companies are reinventing themselves, and I love to see that, where they are unraveling processes, they're unraveling technology, they're unraveling departments, like, they're unraveling things and getting things down to kind of like a new core or new base, and then rebuilding in ways that they've never done before. And so people are really, like, reinventing their businesses, and that's what has to be done. Like, the market, the industry, the demand, it's unlike anything we've ever seen. And so what worked 5 years ago, honestly, what worked 2 years ago, like, we talk about Cypress, what you were doing 2 years ago versus what you're doing today, very different. And I think what we're going to be doing in 2 years from now, look how fast AI is moving. Look at how the society, the workforce, like, everything is moving really fast. It's kind of scary. I think in 2 years from now, it's going to look different. And so people have to be dynamic and flexible and be willing to reinvent themselves and continue to just take hard looks at things that aren't working and realize, like, we're not going to keep doing things the way they've always been done.
And if they don't change, they're going to be left behind.
They're going to be left behind. They truly are.
I mean, it is crazy. And you're right. You and I could do a whole show on what home care is going to look like in 2 years or by 2030. It's going to be so different than it is today.
I'm on the edge of my seat. This is what keeps us here. Know, it's right? Like, I don't know. Like, I have, ideas of where this stuff is trending, but it's like, I'm on the edge of my seat. I want to see this all take shape in real time, because it is. And we are just, like, in the trenches right now of AI and what's working and what's not and how this is all going to shape up. In-home technology, remote patient monitoring, like, I think we're just in kind of the weeds of it all right now, and it's all going to start to crystallize into something, like, really incredible.
It's exciting. It's an exciting time to be alive.
Yeah.
So if somebody reached out to you today and wanted to get into the home care business, what advice would you give them?
Wow. I agree with you. It's so competitive right now,
It
Bob.
is.
I like that you say this, I don't know, behind closed doors or publicly,
you can share.
Which is, would you get into this business right now knowing what you know now? You say no. And it's so competitive. It's so crowded because people read the headlines. So many people turn 60 every day, like 10,000. It's just, the demand is there, but everyone reads those headlines and everyone's building a home care company. And so it's really saturated. So my advice is, you have to come in with a very strong, unique differentiator. You cannot come in and say, I do it better, I pay more, I know more about dementia. Like, you can't just tout any of those really fluffy, generic headlines. 10 years ago, you could do that because there was a third or a quarter of the agencies in your market, a tenth of the agencies in your market. Today, you can't make it with just kind of some fluffy, generic website headlines, just kind of like fluffy accolades. So my advice to people that are considering getting in right now, you better know your differentiator, and it better be strong and compelling, and there needs to be demand for it in your market. Like, home care is very local. Most people are going to start small in a very specific market. What challenges and what solutions do not yet exist in your market? And that's out there. There are specific demographics of people or conditions that have not been, like, identified or solved for by specific companies. And so you have to do the market research and figure out what problems or challenges or needs still exist in your community. And I would build a business specific to solving some of those needs.
No, I love the answer. And certainly you need to demonstrate it too. I mean, it's one thing to say what you're going to do, but you need to demonstrate it. So I want to go back to podcasting. So this is where you differentiate. One thing I've always admired about you, everywhere you've gone, and we talked about it at the beginning, you've built a podcast. Vision, Home Care U, now the Home Care Strategy Lab. Why podcasting? And what makes podcasting such a powerful way to educate in industry?
Yeah, it's, people ask me all the time, why home care and why podcasting? And it's like those two worlds just collided for me. If you would have asked me 5 years ago or 10 years ago if I thought I would be a podcaster, I would have said, no way. I think most people don't know I was like very introverted growing up. I was pretty quiet, shy, soft-spoken.
Never would have thought that.
Now I'm like, get up on these stages and I'm talking, and, my husband or my family, they kind of laugh like, how did this all happen? It's kind of, surprising to me and people that know me. But what I come to now, though, having done it for a while and like understanding myself, is I love conversation. I learn through conversation. I did not do great in school. I'm not super book smart. I learn by doing, and I learn by learning from other people. And that's always been my knack, is like I like to have conversations and learn from people that have been through it. And so that translates into now of like, I love having conversations. I'm very curious. I've always kind of asked good questions. And so all of these kind of like interpersonal skills that have always been there with me now kind of shine through in this space. And podcasting, it's like, it's super personal, and that like, people might be watching this on YouTube, but most people are probably like listening to us like in some earbuds right now.
Right.
You know how crazy that is, that like my voice is in someone's ear and they're learning from me and my guests. It's like, that is such an honor and a pleasure, and I want to make it worth people's time. Like, I don't know about you, I listen to mostly like educational podcasts, not a lot of like entertainment podcasts, because it's like I'm listening with a question in mind to get a specific answer. And so that's how I approach my podcasting, is like, what questions do these business leaders have, and can I help them answer them? Because they're giving me my literal voice like in their ear 60 minutes a week, and I want to make it worth their time, and I want them to keep coming back and back. So I'm rambling, but it's like there's all of these skills that have led me to podcasting, and now that I'm in it, it's a huge honor, but I take it very seriously, and I want it to be the very best that it can be, because it is really a privilege for people to be listening to me and my guests.
It's so funny. I'm the guy that you come in on my ears because I'm the guy that's walking my Labrador Retriever, although I'm on a little hiatus now coming off of back surgery, but I'll be back at it. And we usually do about 3 to 5 miles. And I listen, and when you drop, it's, I think, usually Tuesday. And I listen to Up First by NPR, and I'll tune into the daily. And by the way, I listen to everything at 1.5. And you do perfect at 1.5. Yeah. I can get through these episodes a lot faster. But invariably on a Tuesday, who's the next one that gets into my ear? Because once they drop, they're over. It starts the next podcast. Mm-hmm. And here it is. It's the Strategy Lab, which I love. And you get great guests, very intriguing. And I learned so much from you and the guests that you bring. 120,000 downloads? That's what I picked up?
Over the course?
Over 200 episodes? Yeah. Wow.
Isn't that wild?
That is just crazy. So who's changed your thinking when it comes to home care and podcasting? And then my next question to you, has podcasting made you a better listener, a better leader?
Who's changed my thinking? Wow. I feel like still so hungry to learn. And my biggest fear in life, I think, is complacency. And so I learned something from every guest, but honestly, every conversation. And I know that's cliche, but I genuinely love to learn. You are a role model in this of you are still so hungry, and there's still so much more to learn in life.
100%.
I want to keep that hunger with me, and it's like a daily practice. And I'm not blowing smoke. It's no, I genuinely fear complacency, and I never want to get stuck in my ways, and I never want to stop learning or growing or letting my thinking evolve. Because I say that, I have experienced people in my life that kind of stagnate and no longer seem really hungry for life and learning and
content.
Growing.
Yeah.
And I see that and I'm ooh, I don't want to be that way. And so I want to live life to the fullest, and that is relationships and conversations and learning. And so I learned so much from like every person that I meet. And that's what gets me out of bed like every day.
It's like your superpower. It makes you stronger.
It makes me stronger. Yeah. And people call me
from a Marvel Comics, you know?
Yeah, it really is.
Powerful.
It's like, and people kind of call me like an old soul, or I've always had kind of like this mature, like
you
wisdom
do.
about me.
You so do.
I don't know. I think that's kind of like a gift, but I think as I develop that gift, it's this like hunger and desire to learn, and this like love of people and learning from people. And so that's kind of a cop out. Who have I learned the most from? I don't even know if I could name names. It's really just a combination and a culmination of all of the executives that I've interviewed. You said a minute ago, I said, am I the youngest person you've ever interviewed? And you said, are you the oldest person I've ever interviewed? And you said, actually, someone in Senior One Care, Carl Bossing.
Yeah.
He's another person that I'm just so captivated by. He's like mid-70s. And he is like hungry for life. And I look at you guys and I just think, that's what I want to be. I want to never get tired. Ben Lytle, I don't even know how old Ben Lytle that you just had on the show is. He was also like,
Late
I want to
70s.
be in my optimal health. I want to be, building the biggest, best businesses, helping the greatest amount of people. Like, when I talk to you guys, you are my role models of like, I never want to be complacent, and I always want to be hungry, and I always want to just be like giving back and helping people.
Well, I think you answered all my questions in that one.
What was the second question?
Well,
what was the two-parter?
Has podcasting, I know it's made you a better listener, but has made you a better leader?
A better leader? Absolutely. I mean, I'm a solopreneur right now, and so who am I a leader of? I have leadership responsibilities actually in my personal life, and so I take that very seriously. But listening makes you a good leader. Good leaders do way more listening than talking. And so I guess like the lesson in there is podcasting has made me a better listener, has made me a better leader. The best leaders are really, really good listeners. And so talk about, what skills people need to work on to be successful. Listening.
And by the way, it's a segue to talking about technology too. And my nephews created smart automations, and that in of itself has made us better listeners, because we have now created a way to transcribe every single encounter and summarize it, and also put it into our EMRs so that we can be listeners, and we can be actively listening and listening to the clients that we're serving and the families.
Because too often we're multitasking. We're listening and we're doing something else. Not to knock on podcasting, like that's the whole premise. You can be listening and doing something else. But oftentimes when we're listening to a conversation, to a podcast, in a meeting, like we're multitasking. And so if things can be transcribed and we could be fully present in meetings and in conversations, and then we could review the notes and we can review the tasks, like the conversations are so much more meaningful when we can be fully present and be listening.
100%. So I segue to technology, and this is where, your personal story fits in beautifully. So Miriam, I don't know if you remember, I remember taking a walk on the beach with you in St. Pete. It was a long walk, and we actually went in the water, and I remember getting out of the water,
on.
And I was just like, oh my God, I'm sweating inside the water more than I was outside the water. And literally we were 4 to 5 days before that huge hurricane came in and just wiped out St. Pete. That was in September of 2024. And I remember telling you, I think you're capable of something really bigger. You were working with CareSwitch at the time. And looking back, was that really the moment that you started thinking differently, or were you thinking differently then? Because, I saw greatness from you, and I know I wasn't the only one, because I remember you saying to me, others have told me I'm meant to do things bigger. But that, for me, was like a big moment. I don't know if it was an aha moment for you.
I don't know if in that moment I would have anticipated the entrepreneurial journey. I always thought that you're kind of like born with that entrepreneurial itch, and I've never had that, nor would I don't come from a family of entrepreneurs. Like that was just not really like in my purview, to be honest. But I seeing and kind of helping build these companies, I think what hung me up was there was only so much that I can control. And, this is my personality. It's like I could do really well at the things that I could control, but everything that I couldn't control, that starts to like eat at me and frustrate me and, like kind of build up and pent up. And it was like, wow, I mean, there's only so much I can do, but if I go out on my own, I have full control. And not that I need control or I'm like controlling, but it was like, if I can have complete control, I can call the shots and I can do more of what I want to do and less of what I don't want to do. And so, at that point in time, did I know what was brewing or what was coming? No. But back to my like hunger, it's like, I truly believe I can accomplish anything I set my mind to. Like, I genuinely believe that. And whatever I set my mind to, I will accomplish. The tricky thing is just setting my mind to something. And so quickly, I don't know, relatively quickly after that, I started to set my mind to like, I want to own my podcast. I want to own my show. I want to grow this beyond anything that I've ever grown. And there was kind of a ceiling. There's kind of a ceiling at these companies. And in order to remove that ceiling, I have to do it and build it out on my own. And so once my mind starts going there, it's like, okay, like this is possible and I can take myself there. And then once I set my mind to it, it was like, I'm conservative, it's like I took all the precautions and thought through all of the different avenues and made sure I can monetize from day one. Like, don't get me wrong, I thought through all of those logistics, but once I set my mind to it, I was like, okay, I think I'm going to do this.
So was it Care Switch, which is now Paradigm, where you truly fell in love with the technology side of home care? Because honestly, Miriam, I knew you. And when we went to that summit that Becky Reel put on, wow, I was blown away by what you were teaching and talking about AI. Mind you, this was almost 2 years ago, and how far we've come now. But you were out there early. I could see the passion that you had for technology. Was it over at Care Switch where you caught the bug?
Honestly, probably. And I can cite some of the people that I worked with there, Dan Ogren and Spencer Strombone, Ilya Vahutinsky, the co-founder. They were technologists. And so when you surround yourself with really smart, innovative technologists, you catch that bug. And a lot of what we see today, we were building 2 or 3 years ago. And so I actually see and talk to a lot of the technology companies in the space now, and I'm like a little bit underwhelmed. They think like, what do you think? And I'm like, honestly, we were building this a few years ago. And I say that to kind of tout Care Switch. Like, we had some incredible people and we were building some really incredible technology. And I think we were kind of like ahead of the game. But that is where I caught this bug of that's where I saw AI up close and personal for the first time, probably 3-4 years ago now. And I was like, wow, there is something here. And when we talk about all the menial, mundane tasks in home care, the repetitive day in and day out, documenting, scheduling, payroll, like there's so many repetitive tasks. And when I saw the AI successfully do some of those tasks, I was like, oh my gosh, like this is game changing. This is the new era of home care. And we were just getting started, but now here we are a few years later and we're seeing it. We're smart automations, all these companies, like we're seeing it in real time. And it's like, this is actually like moving the needle.
Now, listen, in our space, you have probably one of the highest IQs when it comes to technology. I mean, you've seen it all. And like you said, 3 or 4 years ago, you were seeing stuff that we're seeing today. And you guys were probably curating that. I mean, Ely had some great ideas. I mean, he was using AI from the start. Mm-hmm. And while, Care Switch isn't what it was back then, it's different today, but the foundation was all based on the tech and the AI that he created.
And I'm excited to just see where it continues to evolve. Like these models and the tools and the kind of culmination of this technology, like we're still just warming up. And I think we're still learning and figuring it out, but it's It's moving quickly, and it's really going to turn into something much greater. But I think you're going to ask me this, like, is AI all hype? I do think it's overhyped.
That was one of the questions.
Let me just address that head on, because it is overhyped. I do, and that's me being like technology forward for sure. I do think it's overhyped. Where I think technology is best suited is to solve the simple, mundane, automatable tasks. Don't get me wrong. I've heard the voice agents. I've seen the external facing tools and technology. I don't think it's good enough yet. I guess my threshold is, would I deploy it in my own business right now? And the answer for me today is no. But where I would deploy it is behind the scenes in operations, automating tasks, documenting, doing all of the simple stuff that technology can do well. But would I have it talking voice via voice to my people externally? Not today.
You and I are on the same page. And certainly repetitive and redundant tasks, let's let machines do it. Let's definitely let machines do it. So after speaking with hundreds of home care leaders, what have you learned about people, not business?
What have I learned about people? Wow. Some good, some bad, some ugly. I'll start there. Let's start maybe on the bad side, and then I can work towards the good. What have I learned about people? There's a good amount of pride and stubbornness and complacency. You know, I see that in people, and I see that in people. To be honest, a lot of the people that I talk to, I actually probably don't see a lot of those attributes in. People in home care are really good to their core. Getting to the positive, the people in home care oftentimes are in it for the right reasons. They have good hearts, they're empathetic, they're kind, and they want to do right by people, and they want to make an impact. And so what I see and learn and love to see is just, there's a lot of goodness in people still. You know, when you look at society and you look at the news and you just see kind of like how negative and heavy the world is. So heavy. There's still a lot of light, and there's still a lot of good in people. And I try and latch on to that and try and see and find the light and the good in each person, because that really does still exist. And I'm getting off of your question, but there's kind of just this spectrum of like, there's the innate negative habits that we all have in us: stubbornness, pride, ego, you know, getting in our own way. But then there's also just like this light and goodness, and I look for and try and find that in every person.
I do the same. No, I love that about you. So you've built communities everywhere you've gone, not just podcasts. Is your real gift storytelling, connecting people, or helping people see possibilities that they didn't see them in themselves?
I think the one that stands out is connector. I really think I'm a master connector. Not even that I think I am, I just have become that. You know, like, I really believe in your network is your net worth. That has proven very true and valuable in my career. But I'm a connector, and I love that. And that's where it's just, I do that out of like the goodness of my heart. People reach out to me every single day and just ask me for this or that. And most often I'm pointing them to other people. I don't have all the answers. I don't know all the solutions. I don't know everything. There's so much I don't know, and I don't pretend to know, but I connect them with people that do. And I love doing that. And then those people circle back to me and say, oh, this is what I learned from so-and-so. You talked to Nate West. It's like, that brings me so much joy, is when my network is benefiting other people. That's probably like my end goal.
Your network is your net worth. Truly. I mean, you've connected me with people. Gabby Pumpian is one. I mean, there are lots of people that you connect people to every single day, and you don't do it for this. You do it because it's the right thing to do. Mm-hmm. So one thing I've always admired about you, you're naturally curious. You don't interview people to impress them. You interview people because you genuinely want to learn. How has curiosity changed your life?
I think it's at like the root of my being at this point. And it's not just home care. You know, I could go on about, I'm passionate about all sorts of things: tennis, health, nutrition. I don't know. There's all sorts of things that I'm really just like passionate and curious about. And so curiosity, I think, is an attribute that everyone should be striving to develop. You know, and it doesn't even matter what it is. It's just like, to have this like zest for life, you should be curious and channel it into different things. And I think it's something that, I'm like developing more and more as an adult and just like getting into different things and not getting into too many things. It's not like I'm into like lots and lots of different things, but it's just kind of like diving into things that matter. And to me, like relationships and health futures, like there's certain things that I think in life actually matter. And so it's being curious about the things that I feel like can improve my life and my quality of life and the quality of life of other people.
Tennis. Wow. So you were watching Wimbledon.
Watching Wimbledon. The World Cup has definitely got in the way of my Wimbledon viewing, but
it did. We still have World Cup left.
We still got a week.
Till next weekend.
Yeah,
it's
tell
exciting.
me. Super exciting.
And
yes.
And to think the Olympics are going to be here next year too. So
you're telling me I love that stuff.
That'll be exciting. So I want to get to the part of our podcast where people get a chance to get to know you more on a personal level. Although I feel like they have in this podcast here because I've asked a lot of personal questions, and I really appreciate you taking time to answer them.
Of course.
So this is my rapid fire question and answer. So, it requires one answer, but you can maybe elaborate on it if you feel to. But it'll give our audience a little bit of an opportunity to get to know Miriam Allred.
Sounds great.
Coffee or tea?
Tea.
Morning or night owl?
Morning.
Beach or mountains?
Mountains.
Favorite place you've ever recorded a podcast?
Wow, that shouldn't stump me, but maybe it is. I don't know. I love studios like this, honestly. This studio, Dallas.
The Dallas studio was great.
I just love like small, intimate studios. So we'll say Dallas.
What's one guest that completely surprised you?
Wow. Recently, Olivia Jones from Care Advantage, because my favorite thing is when I have interviewed someone years ago, 4, 5, 6 years ago, I bring them back and they blow me away because two things. They've improved and progressed a lot, but I groom them and I like play to their strengths and I help them deliver something so much stronger than I was a newbie 5 years ago. I didn't know what I was doing, podcasting 5 years ago. So I was a newbie and they were a newbie. And when I re-interview them and they just rock it, Olivia Jones was a really good example of that recently.
Reggie blew me away. That energy that he had was palpable.
Reggie Mackey.
Absolutely palpable. One leadership book you think everyone should read?
2, Atomic Habits, and then also EOS, Traction. Like, I'm not a EOS implementer or advocate or, diehard Gino Wickman, but I think there's a lot of really good principles there that you can take into your business, whether or not you implement EOS, so Traction.
One technology that every home care agency should adopt this year?
Smart automations. .care. Smart automations.care. I'm not saying that to stroke you or Spencer. It's so simple, but so effective and can save every single team hours upon hours upon hours. And so it's also not very expensive. It's like you plug that thing in and your team will be blown away.
I think Spencer and Harrison would be proud to hear that. I know the answer to this one already, so I'm not going to ask it. One most underrated leadership trait?
Self-awareness.
Favorite city to visit?
Whitefish, Montana.
Ooh, there you go. Best advice you'd ever received?
Paraphrasing what I said earlier, the sky is the limit. Whatever you set your mind to, you can accomplish.
What's one thing your listeners don't know about you?
I am number 7 of 8 kids.
One word that describes great home care.
Dynamic.
If you could interview anyone, living or deceased, who would that be?
Wow. That's loaded. Have you thought about that? Oh my gosh. I guess my mind's racing through like all the greats. I mean, I've always been a fan of Oprah Winfrey, and I think highly of her, and she's, like kind of the pinnacle of like interviewers. Bill Gates, I've always had a fascination with. You think of, the current like technologists, Elon.
Anyone that's no longer here?
Anyone that's no longer here? Wow. Probably Holocaust survivors, people that lived through World War II. I know that's heavy and dark and deep, but that time period has always stood out to me, and just that whole event like is just hard for us to conceptualize. And so people that lived through something so hard and what they learned, and taking like an ounce of what they went through and kind of like bringing that into my own soul would be useful.
I like that. Last one in the rapid fire. What are you most grateful for today?
Health. We haven't talked about it. I've been through my own personal...
I knew you were going to say that.
I've been through my own personal health journey the last 18 months, and I'm super grateful for the work that I've put in, the people that have helped me, and for how I feel today. So,
and you're on the other side, thank God.
I'm on the other side. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
So Miriam Allred, is there a question I haven't asked? Is there a lasting thought you want to leave our listeners and our viewers that you would like to share, please?
I hope everyone just takes from this some of the basic principles that we've talked about: being a good listener, being curious, setting your mind to really lofty, ambitious goals, and knowing that you can achieve those. I know these might sound like kind of like rudimentary principles, but I am a young person and I've had like a good amount of success, but I just feel like there's so much goodness in store for all of us, and we get in our own way. Back to like, leaders getting in their own way and becoming their own bottleneck. Like, we get in our own way. We need to just like open ourselves up and explore and be curious and be hungry and maximize life. What I've been looking for right now is gravitating towards people who are really maximizing life. When you see someone and you're just like, wow, you look like fun and energetic and successful, but also have a great family life. Like, when you see people maximizing life, that's what I want. And so, but I think it's attainable. I think with social media and with just like the image of online, sometimes it looks a little bit fake or like a facade, but I really believe we can have these like incredibly rich lives, even in this kind of heavy, dark world that we live in. And so I hope people, I hope I've inspired that, or I hope people really just like self-reflect on what that could look like for themselves, and then put in the work to actually accomplish it.
Well, I got to tell you, you've done a lot for our industry. It's hard to believe that you're just 30, but I am telling you, if you're not listening to the Home Care Strategy Lab, you should put that in your podcast feeds, and you should be listening on a weekly basis. You get incredible guests.
Thank you.
And I love what you bring. I mean, this is the medium that every single home care agency should be listening to. And like you and I talked about, we have no idea what the landscape is going to look like 2 years from now. So we may be bringing, or you may be bringing content in a different way, but I love the content you're bringing. And one of the things I love about you is, you said it before, you're a great listener and you ask very curious questions. But as a home care agency, we learn from our peers. We don't learn from vendors, selling to us, or consultants trying to tell us what to do. We learn from other home care agencies, and that's what I love about you. Keep bringing the Reggies of the world. Keep bringing a lot of these people that are doing things differently, because that's the only way we can find out. We cannot be siloed. We need to be open sourced, and we need to be ubiquitous everywhere.
And I asked you, who's listening to the show? If you're a home care leader listening to this and I don't know you, please reach out, because I've been doing this a long time, and I've interviewed kind of the top tier and kind of the most public facing people in our industry. I'm looking for these like hidden gems. They're out there in these different states, and I'm trying to find them. But please connect me with other really good home care operators that might not be on my radar, because you're right. I want to interview people that are doing it day in and day out and are being successful and innovative, because that's who we learn the best from.
and I want to learn from them as well. So Miriam Allred, how do people get in touch with you? How do they learn about you?
Yeah, find me on LinkedIn, Miriam Allred, or homecarestrategylab.com. That's where my show lives. You can find it on all the major podcasting streaming platforms. Would love a DM on my LinkedIn if you found this valuable or interesting or want to connect with me, or homecarestrategylab.com.
Miriam, it was great to have you.
Thank you so much.
Make it a great day. We'll be back next week. Thank you.
Thanks, Bob.
Thanks for listening to Health Futures, Taking Stock in You. I'm Bob Roth, reminding you that living well isn't just about years, it's about the quality of life and connections. Follow and share the show, and join us next time for more on how to live a longer, healthier, and happier life.